We have more for your ears only. I'm Katherine Herzog.
I'm David Alpern with this quote from the news. Don't put your stupid hat on. That was North Carolina Governor Pat McCrory urging residents to stay home in the face of a fierce, unusual, and widespread ice and snow crisis across the South and Northeast that left at least 20 dead and hundreds of thousands without power, stranded in their cars, or worse, abandoning those cars on impassable highways. Now this.
Oh my gosh, it was just like, thank you, universe. So much gratitude in that moment.
It's definitely the best day of my life so far. Probably will be the best day of my life, and I'm more than happy to share it with my good friends and fellow Americans.
There was joy in Slushville, Sochi, that is, for many Americans last week, including 23-year-old Jamie Anderson, after taking gold in the first ever women's slope-style snowboard competition. And for Josh Christensen, after leading a clean U.S. sweep of medals in men's freestyle slope-style skiing. And, of course, for the American ice hockey team, after beating Russia 3-2 in a heart-pounding 8-round shootout. But there was sadness as well, notably snowboard king Shaun White's failure to place at all in the halfpipe.
And the biggest problem in week one of the 2014 Winter Olympics was neither terrorism, protest, nor international politics, but weather even warmer than expected for subtropical Sochi that seriously affected many of the outdoor events. With a view from inside the Olympic Village for your ears only, we're joined again by Boston Globe reporter Shira Springer. Welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start with what might have been the least warm event of the week, that ice hockey Cold War reborn between Russia and the U.S. Did you get any sense that the mood around that match was more political than at other Russian-American confrontations? What are you hearing?
No, I think there's always sort of heightened anticipation whenever the Russians face off against the Americans here. That being said, Putin was in the stands for this game, but I was also at a short track speed skating event the other day, and it was just a preliminary heat, and it happened to pit a Russian skater against one of the American skating stars, and the crowd went wild and started chanting, Russia, Russia. And also a guy from the Netherlands next to me said, just like Rocky, at that point. So I think there's just heightened anticipation for all of it, though that being said, the history, the miracle on ice, 1980, the fact that now it was U.S. versus Russia on Russia's home soil, all did play into this matchup.
Talk about the way the heat has affected the games and what the organizers are trying to do about it.
Well, that's a very good question, because at the moment I am looking at yet another event delay due to weather. Ski jumping is going to be delayed. The weather has created tons of havoc in the mountains with the ski events in particular. Competitors have faced slushy snow. There have been delays because the courses are not in great condition. There is not much organizers can do when daytime temperatures in the mountains reach close to 60 degrees, which is what's been happening. The only hope you have is that Mother Nature will cooperate somewhat, and that it will the snow will freeze to an extent overnight when temperatures drop. That's why they're delaying some of the night events even later, hoping that the conditions will get colder and the snow will hold up a little bit better. But I think coming this next week, when there are going to be a lot of alpine skiing events where Americans are in contention for gold medals, you're going to be seeing and hearing a lot about the weather and the snow conditions.
There were stories about the graceful way famed Russian skating champion Evgeny Plushenko ended his career there. What do we know about Shaun White after wiping out? Did he stay around to watch and cheer teammates or head home to prepare for other events or more business deals?
I think more business deals. I know that at the post-event press conference, he said, what's next for him was going out on tour with his band. He didn't have to stick around to cheer his competitors. He was the last half-pipe snowboarder to compete in the second final run. So everybody was watching him to see what he would do, and he just couldn't pull out the run that he needed. And I know you said that, there was sadness that he failed to place and get on the podium in the half-pipe, but I think the sadness may have been all of Shaun White, because I tell you, there were some very happy snowboarders not from America, but, who were happy to see someone else other than Shaun White get on the podium. I think there's a perception in snowboarding that Shaun White is snowboarding, and that has frustrated some of the competitors in that sport because there is a lot of talent there.
What about all the controversy over the American speed skating suits and whether a back flap to release heat buildup might be actually slowing the skaters down? It's a kind of a delicate issue because the suit maker is also a major funder of the U.S. team.
Yeah, it always gets tricky when, you have your sponsors and your funders working on your equipment, essentially, and that's essentially what the suit is with the speed skaters. The latest is that the speed skaters can go back, if they so choose, to the old suits, quote-unquote old suits, the suits that they were using prior to the Olympics. I think one of the unfortunate things, I don't think that Under Armour, and I believe it's Lockheed Martin, who is also part of the suit design, are any less capable of designing a great suit than anyone else. I think part of the problem was, my understanding is the suit came quite late in the game, and there wasn't an opportunity to test it in competition. And I think perhaps with some testing, skaters might have figured out what worked, what didn't work, what adjustments needed to be made, but there wasn't that time to do that. Additionally, there's some controversy about how the speed skaters trained in general leading up to this game and whether that was adequate or whether they didn't really replicate the conditions they would face here in Sochi, and as a result are lagging noticeably behind their competitors.
Aside from the weather effects, what's the feeling about the new slope-style events with all those rails and jumps?
I think people love them. I mean, it was certainly a really boisterous crowd up there. And I think it's really exciting and really getting the younger fans involved and engaged with the Olympics. And that, of course, was the goal of the IOC. They really wanted that young, hip crowd. And that's what's happening. I mean, at these events, they have American and Russian announcers. It's sort of like a big nightclub atmosphere when you go there. They're pumping loud music in. They've got commentary on the runs. It's a pretty cool place to be, despite the warm weather. You just got a lot of activity and a lot of energy there, and it's worked out really well. And I wouldn't be surprised if the IOC finds a way to add more of these extreme events in the future to appeal to a younger audience.
And finally, what about defiance of Russia's ban on pro-gay propaganda, besides the presence of openly gay members of the official U.S. delegation? Has anything really dramatic been said or done?
No, I mean, that issue, unfortunately, I feel, has sort of been pushed to the back burner. I mean, once all the Olympic hype and all the competition started, the focus really did shift to the competition. The protest zones are a bit away from the Olympic Park and the main Olympic venues. It has been, unfortunately, out of sight, out of mind as the sports competition takes priority. And quite frankly, believe it or not, the weather has become the biggest topic of conversation. And that's sort of how the Olympics go. Unpredictable going in, unpredictable when you get there, and a lot of unexpected things happen as a result.
Shira Springer is a Boston Globe reporter covering the 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi. Stay safe. Warm is no problem.
Here's a quote from the news. The decision should not be a slam dunk. That was Dr. Russell Harris at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, on what women should do about mammograms after a vast but controversial study suggesting no lower death rate from breast cancer for women who have the test regularly.
Next, memories of the man who shaped the real Cold War, George Kennan, for your ears only.